Kapla, as the Klingons say. Oh no, it was on repeat, wasn't it? Of course. Let's pause that and do that again. Kapla, and welcome to another episode of Batleth Battles on BQN. I'm your host, Joe Keegan, and today, as usual, this is episode 2. We're going to be putting 2 episodes of Star Trek across the entire franchise in the ring together and see which one comes out victorious and which one gets sent to a fiery pit. I need a wee host or maybe a couple of people to come on and help me. So let's beam them in all the way from Clach to Kelbracht. We have my good friend, Kevin Scarf.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are things in Scotland today?
We had our day of summer yesterday.
Oh,
yes.
So you're preparing for winter?
Well, yes, as the thing goes. Yeah, it was lovely and sunny. I sunbathed out the back garden yesterday because it was
Wonderful
and sunny. Today it's rained again, like it did for the past 4 months.
That's okay. We had snow here yesterday, so.
Wow. How is the great nation of Canada?
So far so good. Things are looking up here. Summer is coming, and the trees are starting to get leaves again. So it's been very windy here, and I've had a lot of still more large tree limbs come down around my house. It's been a little frightening, but
how treacherous.
Yeah.
I've been catching up on Drag Race Canada.
Oh, Drag Race Canada.
Yes. I went last year. I think I had my limit with Drag Race because there was Drag Race everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Drag Race, like one country against Drag Race another country. And I was like, Drag Race overload. So I gave it a bit of a miss. And then I needed a wee drag fix. So I've been back into it. So that's been fun. Should we get somebody else in?
I think we need a third to make this vote fair.
I think so, yeah, because if it was just up to us two, we might never finish the episode and just argue, because you would choose one and I would choose the other. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, where's he coming from? Oh, he's coming from Rurapenthi, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh, is what we like to call Manchester. Please welcome Kelvin Wood.
Oh, Kevin Capaggio. I am not dressed for Rurapenthi. I've got a vest on.
There you go.
Oh, do you know what? Every day is a vest day. It could be in the middle of winter. I wear vests too. In fact, let's just go all vesty. There we go. I also have a vest.
Oh, you don't want to see these shoulders.
Okay. Cool.
That looked very tight, that, Joe, like it's going to cut the circulation off, so you be careful.
Yeah, if my limbs fall off, then somebody else has to host because I will not be able to work the keyboard. Have you seen my arms look big? Is that a compliment? I think that's a compliment. Thank you, Kelvin.
I was saying your sleeves look tight, but if you want to turn it into a compliment, that's fine.
Oh, okay. How are you anyway? How's Manchester?
It is really good. If we're continuing with the weather forecast, we've had our summer today. So thank you for sending that down south from the lovely Ayrshire. It's been really nice. It feels like spring has sprung.
That's cool. And I'm very excited. We have how many sleeps to go? 6? 6 sleeps to go until Ewan and I visit Kelvin and James in Manchester.
Oh, how nice is that?
Very exciting. This is my holiday. This is my spring break. I'm getting late, so looking forward to it.
I'm looking across here in my kitchen at many, many bottles of wine, which I know this time next week will all be empty.
I'm excited. Right. So I suppose we have to do this, don't we? That was brief.
Is that what you plan to do?
No. Well, I just randomly chose one. That was a Klingon communicator beep.
It sounds like you stood on a tribble.
I know, it seems like that. Kevin, do we have any feedback?
We did have one small piece of feedback, and that was on. So the poll went up right after the last episode aired, and Ria Papagiorgio did comment. Ria Papagiorgio?
Oh, I've never heard that name before in my life.
It's an interesting name. I think it might be Macedonian.
Interesting. Oh, dear. Somebody's declared war on somebody.
Anyway, she just wanted to mention how spectacular Garth of Izar looks in his shiny boots. So that's pretty much the only comment we got, both on Discord and on Facebook.
You know, we live for feedback, listeners. So please, we thrive on it. Send us some feedback. If you don't send us feedback, then I'll cry myself to sleep every episode. So please do that.
I've seen him as a weeping mess in the corner. It's not pretty.
It's not pretty.
It's
yes,
not pretty.
exactly. Yes, indeed. Okay, we should get to what we're going to be talking about with maybe this.
We've got sound effects now.
I know. I just downloaded them all from the internet, like all Klingon sound effects. There's thousands of them. We will go through them episode by episode. A decloaking Klingon bird of prey. Today, our two episodes that we're going to pit against each other, I think couldn't be more different. We have the original series episode. I think it's what was it? Season 3, episode
14.
14. Whom Gods Destroy. And we've got Discovery, season 2, episodes 13 and 14. It was a two-parter. Such sweet sorrow.
Sean Connery on us.
Yes, such sweet sorrow. It's quite difficult to say. Whom Gods Destroy from TOS against Such Sweet Sorrow from Discovery. Listeners, the way we're going to do this, we're going to talk about the plot briefly for each of the episodes, talk about the cast and characters and how important to canon each of the episodes are, and then mention about their trekkiness and each episode's rewatchability. So, does somebody, Kevin or Kelvin, want to give us a little synopsis on, let's do Whom Gods Destroy first.
Okay. Well, I'll take Whom Gods Destroy. So this is a classic sort of locked room kind of episode. Kirk and Spock beam down to the planet. What's the planet called? Elba 2, and it is a maximum security mental health institution where people who are seemingly uncurable from their delusions and mental health disorders are kept. There are less than a dozen inmates there, including Garth of Izar, a Tellarite, an Andorian, and a beautiful young Orion woman. We learn that Garth was a famous war hero who won the Battle of Axanar for the Federation against the, I believe, the Klingons, or was it the Klingons? And so Kirk wants to meet one of his heroes. Turns out Garth of Izar is quite delusional, but he also has been given the power to change his form, which he uses to impersonate, which he has already used to impersonate the governor of the establishment. And many shenanigans happen where the beautiful young Orion woman tries to come on to Captain Kirk. People get captured, people escape. The important plot point is that Kirk has put a password on beaming back up to the Enterprise, and Scotty won't let anybody beam up unless he gives the correct password. A fisticuff fight ensues where Kirk fights Garth, who is impersonating Kirk, so it's a Kirk on Kirk battle. And in the end, Spock has to choose which one is the real Captain Kirk, and he shoots him with a phaser and stuns him. And then McCoy has a magic medicine that will instantly cure all the people of their mental illnesses. And that is Whom Gods Destroy.
Interesting. I was saying earlier that I don't ever recall seeing this episode. And I watched it last week. I was like, I don't recognize anything about this episode. I don't think I've ever rewatched TOS from start to finish. It's one of those shows where you kind of dip in and out every now and again. But there's always TOS on at some point throughout the year.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then it occurred to me that this episode was banned by, or didn't occur to me, I saw it on Memory Alpha. It was banned in the UK until, yeah, it was first shown. Normally episodes when they first came out, like in the 60s, would be maybe shown a couple of years later in the UK. This episode first broadcast on ITV in 1984.
Wow.
I know. And the reason that it was banned, I think they banned it in Germany as well. The sadism and the torture and the sexy dancing from Marta.
I think that's some of the least problematic things about this episode, but I won't jump the gun
Yeah.
too much, though.
Yes.
It's interesting how much our societies have changed since 1968 when this show went out on the air.
Yes,
the strange thing about this episode for me is the last time I watched this episode, it was in a room full of nearly 2,000 people, and we watched it on mute without any audio.
Oh,
And that was because on the Star Trek cruise, Denise Crosby does an improv event where she gets a load of the actors out. They don't tell them which episode, but they play an episode of the original series and assign characters to people. So Bob Picardo was Kirk, Denise Crosby was Marta, and it is filth. It's just very, very adult and hilarious. So the actual dialogue of the episode, I'm not too sure I can remember, but I can remember some of the improvised dialogue. So I'm not too sure how I'm going to do on this.
What's the YouTube channel that bad lip reading? No, where they voiceover movies in a way that it looks like they're saying what the audio's saying because their lips are moving in the same way. Do you know what I mean? Listeners, put on the chat, tell me.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what it's called though.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be hilarious. I'd love to see that. Maybe we'll get on the cruise one day. I'll have to retire first. What were your guys' overall impressions of the episode? Just briefly, like in 5 words.
5 words.
Yeah, 5 or more. I don't care.
This show really, this episode, and I'm sure it's going to be true of most of the original series when we talk about it, but it really did have that 60s aesthetic to it. The very stark, the whole base was very stark. The cells, I found it interesting that all the prisoners were standing sort of in attention as they went by, but maybe that was set up because it wasn't the governor that Kirk was coming in with, it was Garth. But it felt, living in the 21st century, the way they talk about mental illness and how it can be just cured with a pill or an injection, that was the biggest science fictional aspect of this episode for me, like the biggest stretch. We all know that mental illness is a serious thing that affects many people in many different ways, and there is no magic pill that's going to cure that. That was the hardest thing for me to take.
That's interesting. That didn't occur to me. Obviously, mental health is a big thing at the moment across a lot of countries, and the lack of support that mental health organisations get from governments. So I didn't see that, but it's interesting you say that.
I saw this episode through the mental health lens as well, Kevin, and I looked at it from the perspective almost like Batman with Arkham Asylum. It's like you're the baddie because you're mad.
Right.
There's no depth to any of the characters other than they're crazy. And obviously, we're talking about the 1960s here. That just would not wash today for a variety of reasons. But yeah, let's set the show in a mental institution because then there's real peril because all of these people are crazy and they're going to try and kill you.
Interesting. Do you think they maybe got away with it more by saying that they were all criminally insane? Like if they were, Yeah, if they were to be kind of let out, they would murder and cause chaos everywhere.
Yeah, and maybe because they were, I mean, I know Garth of Izar is supposedly human, but because he had this shape-shifting ability, it almost made him a bit alien and a bit special. So with the rest of the inmates all being aliens, maybe that was a little bit of a point of difference. I did like the fact we got a Tellarite, an Andorian, a Vulcan, and a human all in the same kind of scene. It was very Birth of the Federation-like.
Yeah.
And an Orion.
Yeah.
Thanks, Davey. It's called Bad Lip Reads. So check out Bad Lip Reads, listeners. It's quite hilarious.
And get to work, Davey. It's Monday morning.
I know. That was your reason for not coming on. Okay, cast-wise, a few people that we've never seen before, some of the guest people, we've got all the usual folk from the Enterprise that we see. Garth is played by Steve Ihnat. I'm going to say that's how you say his name, Ihnat.
Yeah, he's not familiar to me.
No. Notable performances in Bonanza, Gunsmoke, and Mission Impossible. These are all TV shows that I'm vaguely familiar with that may have been on in the background when I was growing up. Yvonne Craig played Marta, the Orion dancer, and it's her fault it was banned in the UK partially.
And can I just say as well, I know I just mentioned about Batman, but there's a link here to Batman that she was Batgirl.
She was. In that series of Batman from 1967 to 1968. Yes, listeners, we can all read Memory Alpha.
Yes, according to Memory Alpha, this was the third episode in a row to have a Batman actor in it.
Oh, who knew? Well, Memory Alpha. She was also in Land of the Giants, which I remember fondly from growing up. Did you guys watch it, Land of the Giants?
No, that wasn't one that was on my radar.
No.
I remember the title, so I probably did watch it when I was younger, but I can't recall anything about it. I imagine there were giants in it.
Yeah, there was a crew of I'm trying to remember. There was a crew of some kind of ship, and it crash landed, I think, on somewhere, and there were giants. It was Gulliver's Travels essentially, but kind of a sci-fi. A bit like the Time Tunnel. Did you watch the Time Tunnel?
That. Yeah, that was great.
That I recall, yeah.
Which was like 1960s Stargate, except it was still time travel, and they had a big spinny black and white disc that they jumped into and like paused midair while they changed the scene. I love that. Cool. Interestingly, Yvonne Craig, Marta, was up for the role of Vina in The Cage originally.
I can see that. She's a dancer.
We've got Richard Geary as the Andorian. He's a stunt man, and he co-founded the first stunt union, the Stuntmen's Association of America. That was quite interesting. Who else do we have?
Gary Downey as the Tellarite. I don't recall the Tellarite or the Andorian speaking.
I don't think they did.
No, I don't recall. He was in the movie Earthquake from, I think, was it 1974? 74, 77? Do you remember set in LA? Earthquake? It was big blockbuster movie at the time, a bit like Towering Inferno. You've never seen it?
Which one is that? Sorry.
Earthquake.
Earthquake. I did the attraction at Universal Studios, but I've never seen the movie.
Oh, you have to watch the movie. It's one of those big budget Hollywood movies with everybody and anybody that's in it. Like, huge cast. I love that movie also. And we have Keye Luke, who plays the governor, Governor Corey, who weirdly was up for the role of Noonien Soong in the TNG episode Brothers. Brent Spiner jumped in saying, I would actually like to play my own father. So Brent Spiner got the part instead.
Interesting.
According to Memory Alpha.
That's a good bit of trivia.
It is, isn't it? You're going to store that in your memory for a quiz in the future, aren't you, Kelvin?
I'm quite partial to a Star Trek quiz.
Oh, this is why Davey's listening, so that he can gather Star Trek questions.
Yeah, Kelvin, do you have like this your mind palace, and it's like a library of Star Trek knowledge? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just think of a hard drive. I don't busy myself with any other information, especially stuff that I get paid for at work. That's in one ear and out the other. But
Oh yeah.
all of the memory files are reserved for Star Trek, and
Yes.
rightly so. So yeah.
Education? What? Pedagogy? What? Means nothing to me. It's only Star Trek.
I don't need to remember actual people's names. I just need to remember people's names from a program 30 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the way everybody should do it. So that's the cast. Yeah. And we don't see any of them ever again, I don't believe, in Star Trek.
No.
So there is a bit of fun. So this episode, or in particular the character, Garth of Izar, was what inspired the fan series Axanar, which was in production and was kind of was it sued by CBS because it was all about the Klingon War, and they said you can't do that because we've got Star Trek Discovery in production, which is all going to be about the Klingon War. So that's what I would say the tie-in between our two episodes today. A legal case.
Yeah. I think Axanar was in production at the time where CBS said that any fan productions couldn't be longer than 15 minutes.
Right.
So that I think that kiboshed a lot of fan productions, so things in production that were going to be half an hour or an hour long. But if you've seen the Axanar trailers that were on YouTube,
I remember them.
Yeah, production and cast. Like we have actual Star Trek actors in this fan series. So yeah, I would love to have seen that, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah. We
got a TV show about lens flares and crying instead. I'd love Discovery. I jest. Any trivia? Any other trivia about Whom Gods Destroy?
This isn't trivia, but I just wanted to talk about the fight scene with the two Kirks. Did anyone else find it odd the music that was playing while the two Kirks were fighting each other? It just seemed to be this sort of, like grocery store background music that while these two guys are pounding on each other, it didn't fit for me. And so it didn't give the fight scene any tension in my mind. I just found it very strange.
I'll have to go back and listen to that. The fight scene was even stranger, given that Spock should have just phasered both of them.
Exactly.
And tied them both up. Yeah. So I was a bit silly. Apparently, Leonard Nimoy had complained about the script because it was really similar to Dagger of the Mind, and he didn't like a bunch of things like the fight scene. Like the way characters were portrayed, including Spock. And he thought perhaps the director, who was Herb Wallerstein, was just trying to make a TV show that was more about the action rather than about how to problem solve your way out of this dangerous situation. So,
well, they reused a lot of stuff from Dagger of the Mind in this episode. The torture chair was rebuilt from a chair that was used in Dagger of the Mind. The uniform that Dr. Corey was wearing with the dove and the sunrise, that was also a reused costume from Dagger of the Mind. So I guess they were saving a lot of money by just reusing
stuff
that they had lying about. We'll just put some extra circles on this chair and boom, it's now a torture chair.
Yeah. Marta's dress was from Dagger of the Mind as well. And there was something else. Garth's uniform was from the Galileo 7. So I
I mean,
suppose you're going,
is this particular to this episode, or is I imagine this was just all the way through the original series of having to
Well,
say,
and you also have to remember too, this is mid to the end of the third season when the show was on its last legs. They never even expected to get a third season, so I'm sure their budgets had been slashed. So why not reuse things that you already have? So it makes sense budgetarily, but people pick up on it. Although they probably wouldn't have picked up on it as much back in the 60s when shows weren't rerun as often. You
Yeah.
couldn't go in and instantly access Dagger of the Mind when you just after you've watched Whom Gods Destroy for the first time. So
yeah, and you don't have podcasters going through it frame by frame to
exactly.
pick at it, of course.
there was some really funny continuity in the cloak that Garth of Izar was wearing, like in the scenes. It was hanging off, and then it was on, and then it was off again, and it was just nobody tends to look at continuity back then.
No, I also loved his when he changed into a different person. That special effect or lack of special effect that they used was like how did they do it again? It was just like he was there. They moved away, then they moved back, and it was
It was like a zoom in and a zoom out, wasn't it? It was
It was very 60s. So let's talk about importance to canon. I think the first thing that I wanted to mention was Spock says Captain Kirk, I presume, to Captain Kirk, which comes up again in Deep Space Nine with the episode Dr. Bashir, I presume. So really canon is just maybe coincidental. And that phrase is taken from a question asked by the explorer Henry Morton Stanley to David Livingstone on the shores of Lake Tanganyika in 1871, who says, Dr. Livingstone, I presume. So there's that for continuity and canon. Any other wee points for canon?
I want to say that the whole chess thing, which is the password, comes into play again. Now, I don't know which episode, and something is actually telling me it was a computer game. I think in the old Star Trek Judgment Rights PC game, it was Queens to Queens level 4 or whatever it was. And I think that was one of the little mysteries you had to solve to progress the game. So strictly speaking, it's not canon continuity, but it is kind of lifted and shifted into a computer game.
It is kind of interesting that that kind of security we don't see it very often in Star Trek. You would think they are beaming themselves into situations where that kind of 2-level security system might be important, but this was created for this episode sort of as a plot device more than anything, but it really is smart. And I'm surprised that we don't see it more often than we do.
You've just made me laugh when you said like 2-step authentication. I've just got images now of Kirk saying beam us up, and Scotty says, I've just sent a number to your communicator. Can you just read it out before I do?
Exactly.
I've just sent a number to your other pad. It's like I left it on the ship. Or click the button. I don't have this device with me.
Although if they can scan you down to your DNA from the ship, it really shouldn't matter that much.
No, this is true. So there's not much canon. Although Davey says that he's all for the idea of that 2-factor authentication as a cybersecurity professional. And thanks, Davey. Get to work or finish getting ready, whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Can't say he's a professional if he's running an hour late for work.
Well, it's 6 a.m. in Australia, so I don't know. So nothing much else canon-wise, I don't think. Garth of Izar and the Axanar series, possibly. I'm sure Garth comes up in many books.
Yeah, it's something that people have glommed onto, because I think back in those days especially, anything that gave you a hint that the universe was bigger than what we just saw on this ship, people would glom onto and create entire universes around. So I'm sure that the Garth of Izar storyline was something that people latched onto.
Yeah. Davey is flossing to this discussion. Thank you, Davey. Listeners, dental hygiene is very important. Trekkiness. How Trekkie was this episode? It's the original series, so it's the... I find it very Star Trek because I'm watching Star Trek.
Yeah,
But
but
original series.
yeah. My take on this, though, like when I created this criteria, I wanted to talk about like what the more morality of the episode, more than anything else. And this was a good sort of knock 'em sock 'em space gun shoot 'em up episode, but I didn't get a real feeling of we're doing this for the greater good or we have to sacrifice ourselves for something. So when it has all the trappings of Trek, but when it comes down to the sort of messages of the episode, I'm not as high on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, do you think they maybe should have gone further with that aspiration to cure people with criminal insanity? I think that should have been the ultimate goal of the episode, and should less about the punch ups and more about we're trying to do good for the Federation.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think maybe that would have been maybe more. It would have created more of a story about a moral tale, like a moral issue. There wasn't really a moral issue here, I didn't feel like.
No, and they could have done some kind of redemption kind of storyline for Captain Garth, and it was just he wants power. He didn't really want to escape. It was all about power rather than getting back into Starfleet. So they could have gone down that route, but it was just a classic escape episode. The away team is in a situation. How are they going to get back to the ship? And there wasn't really much else to it. A big Star Trekky point was all the different species that we saw. That was
there was that.
Me.
Had we seen them all before?
Yeah, they would have all been in Journey to Babel, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. We need another what we have, Kevin. This. Some Klingon language excerpts there. Let's move on, shall we? And discuss our second episode, Discovery, Such Sweet Sorrow, parts 1 and 2. Kelvin, could you give us a short, 40-minute synopsis of Such Sweet Sorrow, parts 1 and 2?
I probably would need 40 minutes to describe.
No.
It's really hard as well to describe Discovery with it being continuing. It's like, where did this episode start? So they just decided that they need to destroy the sphere data to stop Control getting it. So I believe at the start of the episode, they are evacuating Discovery to Enterprise with a view to destroy Discovery and the sphere data. And so the evil Leland or Control can't get his hands on it. There's a fleet incoming, so the clock is ticking. They realize they can't destroy Discovery. So they decide to use the Red Angel suit to take Discovery into the future. So Burnham needs to go and connect all the dots with all the different clues to the Red Angel suit, get it working, get Discovery into the future. And then just at the very last minute, Michelle Yeoh kicks Leland's ass. So really there was no need to go into the future because everything was sorted. But they went anyway. And then we got Strange New Worlds. How's that?
There you go.
Was that it?
That's it.
Wow, it's 2 hours compressed into 1 minute.
It's the sizzle, not the sausage.
Because there was a lot of flashy space battles.
There was a lot of space battles. Perhaps the space battle in Star Trek with the most number of ships,
I would think so.
potentially. If you take into account the literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of probes and shuttlecraft and DOT-7s that they have flying about.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it that I don't really count them as real ships. They're just
Flotsam.
escape. They're not even like glorified escape pods with phasers, really. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
thinking of the big Dominion battles or all those ones, I want to think they have more. But it was just the special effects available at the time here on Discovery that made it
Yeah.
look bigger and better.
I don't know. I think lens flare gets in the way of my enjoyment a lot of the time with New Trek. That's why I like the Dominion battle scenes of Deep Space Nine. Everything just looks really crisp.
Right.
Like it's
It
right
would do
there.
if it was in 4K.
True. So that's the plot. Are there any characters in the known universe that aren't in this episode? We literally get everybody, don't we? We've got our usual Discovery folk. The Enterprise is there with the Enterprise folk. We've got Leland. We've got Emperor Giorgio, and who's the woman with the breathing apparatus?
Nan.
Nan.
We also had Sarek and Amanda.
Who randomly popped up because Sarek walking along the beach, knew Michael was in trouble, so I don't know. They
We
just jumped
have
in the next shuttle.
Saru's sister. She comes back. We
Yeah.
have Queen Poe.
Queen Poe. We have the Klingons. Pop
L'Rell.
Oh yeah, L'Rell.
and was it the guy that killed Culber?
Vok.
Ash Tyler. Yeah, Vok. Tyler. Who else? Anybody else?
That's
Admiral
well,
Coleman.
we got the. What's that?
Admiral Cornwell.
Oh yeah, Cornwell.
Oh yeah, Admiral. Yeah. Oh, poor Admiral.
And the entire bridge crew all got moments.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
So yeah, there was a cast and a half in this episode. We said our goodbyes to Admiral Cornwell. She got blowed up.
Saving the ship.
Yeah, I think they should cover all Federation starships in those glass blast doors that Captain Pike protected himself with. That was a big torpedo that went kaboom in his face. Yes, I would be making my ships out of that glass. Crystal, was it diamond? I don't know. Yeah, lots and lots and lots and lots of characters.
But it still always comes back to Michael Burnham.
Of course.
Yeah, it's her show.
It is. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
In terms of characters, I think since the dawn of dialogue, this episode, all dialogue from the beginning of the real universe, this episode has the cringiest dialogue.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yum yum, AI
Yum,
sausage.
I can't see why. I can't get my mind around it. Giorgio says something, yeah, and like, do you want to help me go and beat this guy up? And Nan says, "Yum yum." It says it like, yum, like in a sexy way, yum yum. And I'm like, why? It just makes me that way. I get embarrassed for her. I don't understand. Can you guys explain? Because I don't get it.
She finds it appetizing to want to put an end to him.
See, it's making me.
So that's your cringiest line in Star Trek, is it? There's so much worse than that.
No, it jumps out at me. And it makes me. I'm feeling weird now. Even I'm feeling itchy at the thought of it. Ugh. So, no explanation as to why we have yum yum. Ugh. Is this important to canon? Not really.
Yes. Yes.
No,
Of course it is. It's like the most important episode in the history of all episodes. Yeah.
because really it was trying to do three things, right? Set up the new status quo for Discovery, set up the Strange New World spin-off, and I think also set up the Section 31 spin-off, which isn't really happening. We're just getting the movie instead. But it was setting up all three of those things. It succeeded on two of them. And yeah. I don't have anything else to say on that point.
Yeah, I mean, there was the things like the conversation with Burnham and Spock when he's in the shuttle and she says, find someone, reach for them, someone who's not like you. That's clearly about Kirk. Mm-hmm. So you would argue for canon continuity, Kirk and Spock are friends because Michael Burnham suggested it. Therefore, it's all Michael Burnham's fault again.
Okay.
Other important continuity thing, Spock shaved his beard. He never had a beard in Star Trek, the original series, so except in the Mirror Universe.
Yeah, we get that, him moving into his TOS version of Spock.
We also got hits again of Pike and his destiny. You know, he had that conversation with Cornwell. Maybe I should do this because if I'm the one doing this, we know we're going to be fine because I don't die for another 10 years. So we had that plot come back up to us again. So many plots were sort of convalescing or coalescing all here. So
if he was to stay with the torpedo while it blew up, would it have blown up? Because his destiny lies in the 10 years in the future.
But you can change the future because in the season finale of Strange New Worlds, something was changed and he didn't die. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. So it was preordained that we're going to lose Admiral Cornwell, is what we're saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or did we? I stand with the fan theory that L'Rell beamed her off a nanosecond before the blast got her, even though you saw her go.
Nanoseconds, a long time, isn't it? And like when you're beaming somebody off, that's all it takes.
It is.
Yeah, so we're all agreed this is super important to canon. So many things have been set up. I watched it, yeah, and I forgot how much I enjoyed it originally. Yeah. It's just it's non-stop, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've just recorded an episode of All Good Things where we're reflecting on the different showrunners of Discovery and how there's different feeling to the show. If you think of kind of the Brian Fuller Klingon War start of it, to the Alex Kurtzman this episode, through to Michelle Paradise's Is Everybody Okay? You know, this was just action, 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 action. There wasn't the long, drawn-out scenes, but too much about everyone's well-being and everybody's happy and everybody's a family. It was, yes, there was the long conversation with Spock and Burnham, and then the conversation with Culber and Stamets in sickbay, but that was earned. It wasn't just there for the sake of it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they recorded the conversation between Culber and Stamets in sickbay that we saw in the most recent episode of Discovery at the time they filmed Such Sweet Sorrow?
No, I think it was... Well, no, because they wouldn't have had the story, would they? They wouldn't have had the script.
But you thought, well, did they? I don't know. Did they work a couple of years in the future?
No, I think it was just very, very good cinematography, direction, music, styling on this week's episode of Discovery that really captured that scene again. Okay. I think they did a great job this week.
Get your old uniforms out, and hopefully you haven't put on too much weight or lost too much weight.
I can still fit in it.
Yeah. Get your Botox for your wrinkles.
Yeah, I found myself getting emotional during the Spock and Burnham scene where she's telling him how to sort of live his life, and knowing what Spock becomes and how important Spock is to the entire universe. That really hit me, and I did find myself like cleaning some dust out of the corner of my eye. Uh, at that point, I thought that was lovely. Um, I also liked her conversation with Sarek, where he said, "I am supporting Spock. He's told me to stay away, so I'm staying away." I thought that was nice too. I thought the goodbyes were, I thought, very lovely, and again, well deserved after a season. Uh, I thought the way the whole thing tied together, I thought it was really great writing. I thought it was lovely the way everything wrapped up fairly neatly with that bow. So
I think a lot of the emotion of it came from the music as well. I always remember the music in this episode is so beautiful that it really adds to the feeling of them hard-hitting farewell scenes. Yeah, there was quite a lot of them.
Sorry, guys, I went and blanked out a bit. Where are we?
we're still talking about importance to continuity. Is that what we're talking about?
You're live on YouTube, Joe, doing a podcast.
Yes, I know. I apologize, listeners. Okay. Kevin?
Yes. Oh, you want me to continue?
Take over for a moment. Thanks.
So how about the feeling of what I've been calling Trekkiness? Do you think that this is a true sort of representation? Is this a good Star Trek episode?
I think so. It deals with sacrifice, the greater good, as it always does in early Discovery. Here is people willing to not necessarily sacrifice their lives, but take themselves away from everything they know and love, be it family, be it time that they're in, to go with Burnham so she doesn't have to go on her own. They're accompanying her to the future. They're going in the first place to stop control. And yeah, I just think it's really weird just looking back on having the Enterprise and Pike there before Strange New Worlds that we all now know and love. But at the time, it was such a big deal having the Enterprise there in its brand new refit with the beautiful bridge. That
orange.
Yeah. So I don't think you can get much more Trekkiness than that, just the homage to it all.
I think one of the reasons we like Star Trek is because it does that. It discusses big issues, and in some cases the stakes are high, and we get to know the characters and we love them and they feel like family. And this episode does all of that. I don't think there's another Star Trek episode where the stakes are as high as they are here. And I don't like what Michael Burnham says about control, try to wipe out all life in the universe. So anytime, I think they get mixed up with universe and galaxy a lot of the time in Discovery, but that's another gripe for another time. Yeah, the stakes are high. Control wants to wipe us all out, and we've got a small group of people that are trying to make it not so. And they are, I suppose, they are in a way. Kelvin, I maybe disagree with you. They are sacrificing their lives because your life is like the current space that you live in, isn't it? And all your relationship with everybody. Yeah. So you're not physically dying, but you are giving up what your current life is to.
Yeah. Although you could argue maybe they were dying because that's the cover-up. That's the classification. At the end where they say we saw Discovery go boom. I saw it with my own eyes. Yeah. To all intents and purposes, to everyone else, they're dead.
Yeah, so the grief that all their family members and their loved ones back home would be real.
Yeah.
So it would be a real death. Yeah.
So everybody on the ship was offered the chance to get off the ship and go to the Enterprise. Do you find it surprising that none of our main characters and none of our sort of supporting characters either took them up on that offer? Like, of our main characters, we know Michael is going to sacrifice herself. Saru is bigger than Saru feels things. This is more important than family, probably. Stamets, we don't know much about his other family, and if Hugh is staying, then he's going to stay. Tilly doesn't get along with her mother, so she's probably going to leave. But we don't know anything about the family relations of Detmer and Owo, and and yet they all said it's fine. We're going to go off into an unknown century with you. Do you find that strange that no one took them up on the offer to get off the ship?
I don't find it strange because it's been seen before in Star Trek for that powerful message of solidarity. If you think of like the end of the 37s in Voyager, where Janeway says you can all stay on this planet if you want, and we'll take a vote, and then they go into the cargo bay and nobody's there. Everyone wants to stay on Voyager. So they've made that statement before. I think Culber was going to go on the Enterprise, wasn't he? Yeah. And then changed his mind when Paul got injured and had the realization that they belong together. But I don't know. Yeah.
And there was a throwaway line at one point where I think it was Pike that said, "We're just waiting for those who wanted to go to get off the Discovery." But we don't know any of those people. They were just sort of like random background crew members, So some people did take them up on the offer, but it was nobody that we knew or recognized. Yeah.
When does Bryce leave? Is that later on?
It's later on. I think towards the end of season 3.
Yeah, okay. I was getting that because I've rewatched like seasons 2, 3, and 4 like within a couple of days, so I'm getting my facts mixed up. So everybody that we know and love and care about all decides to go. Would you go? Would you go somewhere where there was no possible chance of ever seeing any of your family or friends or loved ones ever again? I don't think I would.
I don't think I could either.
No, I don't know. I don't particularly. This sounds terrible to say on a live podcast. I'm not very close to my family, so I don't think that would factor for me. But I mean, if we thought of like James wasn't with me on the ship and he was, on a planet elsewhere and I had to go, then no, I wouldn't. I'd stay for him. Maybe what wasn't dealt with was the kind of the curiosity of where are we going in the future? What's it going to be like? It might be quite exciting to be there. The kind of explorer in what should be all Starfleet people. It was just the task at hand is to stop Control getting sphere data. So let's make sure that happens. So they were all just very committed to the mission. But I don't know.
I know there wasn't
Strange New Worlds than Discovery, so maybe yes, I would have gone on to the Enterprise.
I know there wasn't really time, but would the sphere data have had information about possible futures? Because Archer had so many run-ins with Future Man and the Temporal Cold War. Would there be information in that database about the future?
When was the Temporal War? Like 28?
It was like 100 years before this, right? It was Archer's time.
No, like when?
No, in the future.
20. Was it 26 or 29?
29. So before
the time that
it ends up in 30. Was it 31, 32?
Yeah.
I don't think kids ask me all the time, like, because we're talking about space and stuff. If there was a mission to Mars, would you go, knowing that you could never come back? And I'm like, I'd love to go, but then the idea of not seeing my family again is that would be the one thing that would keep me here. Although being an explorer on Mars.
Yeah, but other things would keep me here too, like sushi restaurants and
no fish on Mars.
fresh air, the sea. lakeside cottages, those kinds of things.
But you can get Paramount Plus on Mars.
And if nobody would bother me, then we could still do the show. Imagine the time lag between trying to do a live StreamYard live from Mars.
Kevin, are you frozen?
Power up the Midas array. I think it's weird to look at this episode about them being such a tightly knit crew and going to the future. All we're all in this together, and not actually seeing what we've seen in seasons 3 and 4 of Discovery, where Tilly's there for 5 minutes and she's like, I don't like it. I think I'll go to the academy. Nielsen's now on Voyager. Bryce has left. Saru's buggered off with Tarina. It's like, they didn't really want to stay with Michael that much, did they?
It took another year, but we're like, yeah, we're done with you, Michael.
Yeah.
Different opportunities arose for them.
Maybe they were just jealous of her relationship with Book. Oh, you get that, and I don't get any kind of
fun stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're kind of done with this discussion of whom gods destroy and such sweet sorrow. Yeah.
I believe we might be.
Okay. Who wants to go first with a wee recap of their thoughts and why they're going to vote and what your vote is for? Kevin, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay. Go alphabetically.
I thought Whom Gods Destroy was a bit of fun fluff. We got to see some Vulcan neck pinches and some real classic Star Trek shenanigans. But I feel like Such Sweet Sorrow really pushes the story forward. It brings some storylines to a conclusion. It opens up new possibilities for the following season. And, we also have to take into account here that Discovery is a very serialized show, whereas the original series had no serialization at all. But when it comes down to what hit me in the feels most and what I'd probably watch again first, it's going to have to be Such Sweet Sorrow.
Such Sweet Sorrow. Okay.
Such Sweet Sorrow.
Thank you. I will mark that down. Kelvin, what are you going to vote for?
Well, I'm all about the value, and here we get a 2-for-1. So it's a 2-parter versus a single episode. So it's already stacked in the favor of Discovery because it's double the content. I think Whom Gods Destroys is a fun romp of an episode to watch, but potentially for the wrong reasons. I sometimes find I might be laughing at it rather than with it. But it is, that doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. It was very campy, very funny. It will forever be very cherished in my memory because of the improv on Star Trek Cruise, which makes it very special. However, it can't compete with Hot Spark, Captain Pike, The Red Angel, AI Sausage, Yum Yum, Michelle Yeoh, Oscar winning. There's just so much in this Discovery episode. And it is one of those episodes I do rewatch a lot. I know it's hard to just go in and do a random rewatch of Discovery. But this 2-part finale, I often do. So it is a favorite. So I am voting, if it's not a surprise, for Such Sweet Sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. I have noted your vote. Which kind of doesn't leave it up to me to break the tie, which is good. So my vote doesn't really count. Thank you for that. I know it always counts. Yeah, do you know what? It's a no-brainer, really, isn't it? Whom Gods Destroy is a fun TOS episode. We see a double Vulcan nerve pinch on 2 different species. We see the founding members of the Federation. There's maybe a bit of how we're going to get out of this situation. But Such Sweet Sorrow has literally everything you could want in a Star Trek episode,
Mhm.
and more. And the Klingons turn up to save the day. Yeah, my vote goes to Such Sweet Sorrow because
There you go.
it's infinitely rewatchable. Apart from, I'm going to forgive the yum yum dialogue. I maybe just create my own version in the future with yum yum edited out, and then it will be the perfect episode.
I will let you know that the listener polls on Discord and Facebook are in as well. It was 7 votes to 1 on Facebook for Such Sweet Sorrow, and 5 votes to 1 for Such Sweet Sorrow on Discord. The one vote, at least I know on Facebook, I can see who voted for what. The one vote on Facebook was Rhea.
Of course.
Why are we not surprised?
Michael Burnham's biggest fan.
Yeah.
So thank you. So it's Such Sweet Sorrow moves on to round 2.
It does.
Whom Gods Destroy is stripped of its Star Trekiness and sent to a fiery cave somewhere with the Paraiths, perhaps. Kevin, do you know what? We should have another wee sound effect. Let's choose one. Will we go with this one? Oh.
All right.
That was exciting. We should. Of course, it's on repeat.
Should we pick what 2 episodes are coming up next?
Yes. And I'm hoping that sound effect isn't going to play. Do you have the. I've got it.
I am. Oh, you got it? Because I've got it right here too.
Oh, maybe not.
I got it. I will do it. There it is. You see it?
Okay.
I have shared my screen, have I not?
Yes, you have.
There we go. We are spinning the wheel. Ooh. The first episode we will be looking at and talking about is a Voyager episode. Good Shepherd.
Good Shepherd. Okay.
And
spin it again.
I will. I'm spinning. It's spinning. It's spinning. It's slowing down. It's stopping. And it is on a Next Generation episode.
Ooh.
In theory. There we go.
So TNG's In Theory. Try to remember the episode.
Good
Shepherd.
Yeah, Sora in the dark matter.
Yeah.
People falling through the floor.
Yes.
Good Shepherd.
It's the Janeway takes the officers we've never seen before on an away mission, and it also features dark matter. There's the dark matter aliens.
It's the kind of Lord X episode.
Yeah, got that annoying Bajoran ensign who shows up again on The Haunting of Deck 12.
Oh,
excellent. Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah,
like you said, I'm not as familiar with Voyager as I should be, so I'm very excited to watch some Voyager.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
And we will for sure not be adding a Discovery episode to the round 2 wheel, because we voted a Discovery episode in last episode as well.
What do you mean?
So, eventually, if we ever get through this, which I know we won't, but I'm keeping track of what episodes win, and we could end up coming back to this in the future for a round 2. So, Such Sweet Sorrow is now on the round 2 wheel, up along with Species 10C, which we voted in last week.
Huh. Cool. We need another wee sound effect, don't we? Let's do this one. How rude.
Ooh, scary.
Yeah. We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode, and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion there. Or you can follow the network on X or Instagram at BQN Podcasts, or join our Discord server where the Batleth Battle polls will always be posted. So, Kelvin, where can people find you when you're not beating AI to death?
You can find me here on the network where I co-host All Good Things with our Klingon mother, Amy Nelson, Christos and Mark, and more recently, Kristen, who's just joined the team as well. So that drops every Thursday morning, wherever you get your podcasts. Or you can come for me directly at Kelvin's Timeline on the socials, or you can find me in the BQN Collective Facebook group or on the Discord server.
Or in Manchester?
Yeah, just root around. You'll find me on Canal Street.
Kelvin,
It's me. And Kevin, where can people find you when you are not going Queens to Queens level 4?
Well, that would probably end in a stalemate for me, so I'm never going to do that. But you can find me around the social networks of the BQN. I'm in the collective on Facebook. I've started participating a little bit more in the Discord, which is always beeping on my phone, which is exciting that we're getting so much interaction over there. I also do a podcast with some local friends called True North Nerds, which we talk about very fun nerd and geek culture stuff. So Joe, where can people find you when you aren't when you're not devolving into millions of tiny computer bits all over the floor of a spore chamber?
Oh. When I'm not doing that, which doesn't happen very often these days, you can find me on the BQN Collective on Facebook. I've got Twitter and X and Instagram. Or do I have X anymore? I can't remember. Whatever. I have at JoeyJoe77 UK. You can get me there. You can email me at Joe, what is it? JoePodcast@gmail.com.
That's what it was last time I checked.
Yes. Although that email address is just spamorama at the moment. I think somebody must have listened to a podcast where I mentioned it and then just signed me up for everything. I do not need Viagra, thank you. So yeah, get me out of Scotland, Ayr, my house. Okay.
It's a very nice house.
Thank you. You've both been here. Come visit again. Kelvin.
No,
Kelvin.
Kelvin.
Another
with an L.
K word, yeah.
Are you not putting the promo on?
No, we don't have it.
Oh, lovely. Okay. Well, in that case, if you would like to help keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon with a monthly subscription of $5 or more. You can join our monthly meetings of the Hive Mind on the second Saturday of each month. For more details, go to patreon.com/BQN.
So at this time, we would like to thank our executive producers who make all of this possible. Special thanks to Mark White for our artwork, and Joe Keegan wrote the music, which you are about to hear right now.
Let's do it after. I don't like the music over the dialogue.
Okay.
Thank you for joining the Bat'leth Battle, and until next time.
Kelvin needs a good closing.
Oh, I should have prepped for this. I should have really read. Find someone and reach for them in the future.
Nice.
Leland, we were just talking about you. Everybody hates you. Congratulations.
Guys, in preparation of this podcast, because I've got my two K friends on, I wrote you guys a poem, an original poem.
Ooh.
Kind of a poem, kind of like a poem. It goes, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler, yada yada.
Oh, you wrote that?
I wrote that all by myself, yeah.
Just last week?
Last week, yeah.